Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's Mark here from EnviroGuard, and today we are going to be talking about topics having to do with mold, and we're going to start out by talking about light, medium, and heavy mold. Now, Joe Crivello is going to be joining us pretty soon here. I think he's just running behind. Quite honestly, we've all had probably a busy day, and I just jumped in on this so that we were on time. So let me just bring up our itinerary here just to kind of give you an idea as we are getting ready for Joe to join us. And Tucker, if you're listening, would you please get in touch with Joe and find out when we expect him? So anyway, we're going to be talking about identifying light, medium, and heavy mold jobs. And some people may be very familiar with distinguishing between these. And I would also characterize staining as its own thing, right? Sometimes you can have heavy mold and very little staining. Sometimes you can have a lot of staining and very little mold in terms of soil load, right? Gross soil load. We're going to be talking about assessing jobs, both to maintain standards and to provide the results that you're looking for. And then what always works into this stuff is minimizing labor while maximizing profit. And this is, these are ongoing themes within our industry, but they're important themes. And if I've learned anything from, my 15 years or so in the industry, it's that we have to keep reminding one another sometimes. I guess you could say we have to keep supporting one another, right? Sometimes we have to remind one another, about the details of assessments and why they're so important. Sometimes we have to remind one another about why the standards are so important. Sometimes we have to remind one another about why flexibility is so important. So I think that is the conversation. Remind one another about why flexibility. Right. I'm not sure what this is. I think that is the conversation. I'm seeing you. Right. I'm not sure what this is. I'm hearing some weird background noise, though. I'm seeing you.
Yeah, but I'm not making the noise.
Yeah, I think that might be Tucker. I don't know, though. Some weird background noise, though. Okay. Yeah, I think that might be Tucker. I don't know, though. I'll let you guys figure that out, and I'll kind of keep going with my idea here. So, like Joe is probably going to relay, we've had the fortune from our standpoint of working with at least hundreds of remediation contractors and restoration contractors. And he's had the opportunity to work on thousands of jobs. Okay. And so together, it's always nice to, kind of have both perspectives. One from, this is what we've seen on the job for 30 years. Ours perspective is more like, here's what we see from hundreds of contractors around the country and the feedback that we get. And we look to bring that information to our customers to help them, right? To help them grow in profitability, close sales, increasing sales, which is why you hear us talk about moisture controls and things of that nature from time to time. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of set the table for our conversation today. And so we're going to talk about light, medium, and heavy mold jobs. We're going to talk about assessments and maintaining standards and results, and then minimizing labor and maximizing profit. And that's probably going to be a theme that just kind of weaves into everything. Okay, so let me do this. I'm going to bring up an image or several images for you. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and you can probably see from these two images, one is a before and one is an after. And so the reason I wanted to bring these images up first is this represents what we would consider a light mold job. Now, in this particular job, we were looking at a restaurant that has been abandoned for a minimum of a year. Okay, I think last March, this restaurant was abandoned. And what ended up happening was because of just latent humidity, right, in the environment where this is in North Carolina, mold grew on everything. If we were looking at the kitchen here, you would see mold growing on everything from the cooktop to sinks, vinyl walls, et cetera, right? But out here in the dining area and the entrances and things, you can just see. And let me just blow this up. You can clearly see just the surface mold that has developed on all of these surfaces. Okay. Now, when we talk as a manufacturer, realize that sometimes we don't always preface everything with the first thing you have to do is control and contain the area. And then as for the first step in your HEPA sandwich, you're going to HEPA vac all these surfaces to remove all of the loose particulate from the surfaces to prevent spread during the cleaning process, right? I think you need to take that for granted sometimes when you're talking to manufacturers like us. And maybe you do. Maybe you already go, hey, we're talking to a chemical guy here. Let's just focus on the chemical side. But in case I've never been explicit in saying it, we believe in S520, okay? So we're never going to run against the grain, and that's always going to be inferred when we're talking about cleaning, disinfecting, all of that sort of thing, okay? So I just want to put that out there so that when I talk about wipe downs, when I talk about the use of a disinfectant, antimicrobial afterward or something of that nature, once the surface is clean, realize that I'm not saying that without saying everything else that precedes it or anything else that would come after it, okay? We're simply talking about what we do best, just like you have to talk about what you do best, right? If you don't do build back, you don't talk to your customer about build back. You just say, hey, well, you've got to hire somebody else to do that, right? We do chemicals, okay? So, and we don't, right now anyway, we don't sell dehumidifiers and we don't sell air movers and those sorts of things. So anyway, let's get back to this. So what we wanted to do as a sample for our customer on this job was to provide him with an idea of what the surface looked like before. And he was with us with loose mold, right, with surface mold on the surface. And then in this case, what we were able to do was wipe down this surface with Deutrion, right, which is our disinfecting cleaner. And the big deal here was we needed to be able to provide, let me just zoom in here, a visibly clean, dust-free surface. That probably sounds familiar from S520, but not leave a film behind, right? And that's the entire idea behind that Deutrion disinfectant solution, by the way. Joe, you with us?
Yeah, that took a while.
Man.
Well, Tucker was helping me. It wasn't working.
Yeah.
Now it is.
Let me just throw our cameras around here a little bit and see what we got. Okay. So we're looking at these surfaces. So I was just, talking about an example of a light mold job, Joe, that we saw several months ago in a restaurant that had been closed for about a year and 3 months or something like that, yeah. And how surface mold developed because of latent humidity within this restaurant environment. And then I also explained, hey, just because from a chemical standpoint, we don't always talk about precede everything that we say with the need for containment, cross-contamination control, HEPA vacuuming and things of that nature doesn't mean that we're saying don't use that. We absolutely fall on the side of S520. We're simply talking about what we do best, and that's the chemistry side when we're talking about these sorts of things. Whereas from your side, Joe, you're looking at it from a contractor side with over 30 years of experience in, as a contractor.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I was just sharing these pictures here because one of the things that we've been asked to do in our training is provide good pictures so that people, when we say light mold, they know what we're talking about, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Because that can be a moving target, right? So Joe, I mean, we're starting out this conversation with light, medium, heavy mold. How did back in the day when you were a contractor, how did you discern in your services between light, medium, and heavy mold in terms of the products that you use, changes to your procedures, and how did you successfully find educating your employees on that?
All right. So, like this, I would call this, well, I'm only seeing one door, right? So I don't know what's going on in the restaurant. I'm seeing that one,
Right.
that looks like a door, right? Is that what that is? Yeah. So, so that's, I would consider that heavy. I mean, there's a lot of mold on that, right? So here's the thing. So I'm in Colorado, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so in Colorado, it's usually if we get mold, like let's say, of course, if a pipe breaks and no one's there for weeks, mold grows. But we did a lot of attics and crawl spaces, and normally it was always light because as soon as the moisture dried up, there's no humidity in Colorado. Like today is 13%. So mold doesn't grow from humidity here. It grows from a broken pipe or a roof leak or something like that. So almost, I'd say 70% of all the jobs we did were light. Now, when I moved to North Carolina, and my son was in the business, and I went on a couple of jobs with him and looked at it, it was a whole different story. Everything was heavy. It all looked like, I'm like, oh my God. So, one thing that we did a lot of times is we took a white towel, and if we rubbed it and we barely got anything on that towel, of course it's light. There's not a lot to do. But you can look at it and you can see it's fuzzy and it's no longer light. Because a lot of times when it's light, it looks more like staining.
Yeah.
And then when it was medium, you could see that it had some fuzz. And if you rubbed a white towel, now you're going to get it's black on there or green or whatever the color of the mold was that we were looking at. And so but we kind of approached everything the same way. I'm really big with following the rules, right? Like, to the T. And I like HEPA vacuuming, even if it doesn't look like it needs HEPA vacuuming. When somebody's paying you to do a job, right? And most times when you go to their house, they're thinking they're going to die because you're not in the field like I was. Every time I went, oh my God, am I going to die? And I'm talking sometimes 1/4 of an inch of mold in a corner. And people are afraid of mold because the media has made it a scary thing. So, I would go and I would HEPA vacuum. And the problem we have is this. So a lot of times you're bidding against all these other companies, and in Colorado, it's not a licensed state. So because it's not a licensed state, anybody can do mold. Yeah. And so they go in there and they'll bid like an attic that's, let's say 1,000 square feet. They'll say, I'll do that for $1,000. Well, if I'm going to do proper mitigation, I can't. How do you compete with $1,000?
Right.
Well, you can't. So you gotta. There's a corner that's got to be cut, and you got to tell the client, look, we're not talking apples to apples here. No one can do that for $1,000. If you want me to kill this, now I can make it disappear with 12% bleach or OxyPrep, right? And so it could disappear for sure. The cool thing about Deuterion that you have now, Mark, is you have an EPA registered product that we can actually say at sporicidal kill. When you're mixing it correctly, like 4 grams in a gallon of water, you're sporicidal kill now. And so we're killing it. So now we're actually killing it. Most people don't do that because of the cost of Deuterion, which is really low. It's really feasible to do that. So I would spray OxyPrep, and I would use something like Deuterion to say I killed it. Now, if I got clients that understood that, okay, so there's two things here. If they're selling their house, they don't want to spend any money, right? The inspector found mold. They're like, oh my God, we're broke. So they're going to do it the cheapest they can. They don't care if somebody dies or what, right? They just want it to not be there. If somebody's buying a house, it's a whole different story. Now it's their health, right? So there's two different things happening. But I always made sure my guys used an antimicrobial of some type because I wanted to make sure we killed it, because even if even if the seller didn't care about their life, I did. Whoever bought the house, I cared. And I'm not saying they're going to die from this, but I wanted to do my job correctly. It's a really tough question. We're all up against all these people bidding these jobs for really low. So it's great that you have OxyPrep because we can compete in the market. But what you have that I just found out, that Sorbassist, we're doing a job. The people come in and go, oh man, when's that smell going to go away? Right? You're using high powered bleaches and stuff. It's really strong. Sorbassist gets rid of all that odor now. And people are like, oh, wow, that smells great. So I think it's a great addition. But as far as light, medium, heavy, it's simple. It's light if you barely get anything on your towel. And plus, if you look in an attic and there's spots and they're about, 10 inches apart, right? Like that's light.
Yeah.
But if it's, they're closer, there's medium. Medium is anytime you get black on the towel, right? And so I call that medium. You need to HEPA vacuum that because you can't necessarily clean an attic because of the nails. So you can brush it, you can do all that, but that's what's really cool about, what is it called? An extract. What?
A react extract, yeah.
Yeah, react. God, I can't believe I didn't remember that. React and extract is everything because now you're doing the total job without all that scrubbing, and you can take a wet dry vac and vacuum it up, and it's real easy, right? Because you can get long hoses on those wet dry vacs and just vacuum all of it up. So, but everybody out there is right because I know I talk to them every day. They're dealing with competitors that are bidding like really low. And the client only cares about their money. And so that's how we fight them. We use OxyPrep, right? And Sorbassist and do it like that and use an antimicrobial.
I'm just playing around my camera here so I can see everything here.
Yes.
So that it's really interesting how you define, and maybe a lot of contractors would define a light, medium, and heavy mold situation. Can I share with you how we think about it?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
We think about it in terms of how easy it is to remove from a surface. Okay. So for us, this picture that we're seeing right here, okay, we would call that light mold. And the reason that we do is it has nothing to do with the amount necessarily. This is surface mold, clearly.
Yes.
Right? We don't have it's not thick, right? But it's not embedded into the surface either, which would make it difficult to remove from the surface. We wouldn't need, for example, to use a heavy-duty cleaner like an OxyPar to loosen it from the surface. It's not staining, so we wouldn't use OxyPrep in this situation. So immediately, because it's easy to remove and it's not a lot of soil load, we would consider that light. But it's interesting to hear you define it because it's so much different.
Well, because I'm in Colorado and it's different. When I see that, that's a heavy mold deal. We don't see that, right?
Yeah, I got you.
We see this, but you're right. Because when I'm using that towel and it wipes off, I know it's surface mold because it comes off real easy with our white towel when we're checking if we need to vacuum or anything like that, right? So I would have known that by our towel trick. But you're right. I look at that. That's an oh my God, we're going to be rich job. Right. And so you look at it in the South as this is everyday stuff. And it's not like that here. And like Arizona and New Mexico, because I started my business in New Mexico. So it's the same climate as Colorado. So I'm very, very fortunate that the work I did was in, Colorado and New Mexico, because even drying houses when we did flood jobs, we could do it without dehumidifiers by opening the windows if the temperature was right, because our humidity outside is almost as low, especially in the winter. If you open it, I don't know if you remember this, man, but years and years ago, they had these fans that you put in the window and they heated up. They had heaters and it brought that cold air from outside. This is like 30 years ago. You probably don't remember it. They brought that cold air in and they heated it and it was like 2% humidity. So we were able to dry houses like that a long time ago. But in the South, everything's different. It has to be closed drying. We didn't have to really follow directions as much because I had all those advantages of low humidity. And you're right. I looked at that. That's heavy mold here for sure.
Right. So I just threw a banner on our screen right here. And this is just thinking from a manufacturer standpoint, right? We define light, heavy, and mold based upon the level of soil load and how easy it is to remove. Right?
Wow. Yeah, that's great. That's how it should be.
Yeah. So anything like this for us, because it's surface mold and it's easy to remove, we would say this is your Deutrion mold remediation.
Yes.
But I think you mentioned a key thing that's really an important element, and that is that what if you're dealing with something like an attic space where you got a lot of nails, and all of a sudden something that could be easily removed with a Deutrion now becomes a headache, because who wants to do a wipe down of an attic full of nails, right?
That's right. You can't.
That's where we would then say, okay, even though React Extract chemically is overkill for the area, it still gives you greater efficiency overall and profitability than the use of Deutrion, even though your chemical cost is higher.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So that's how we kind of, we're always thinking down those paths, and I can see how that can be concerning or sometimes difficult to understand from a contractor's position. Because if I were you, I would just say, I want one product. Give me one product that does it all. But I haven't ever run into a situation in my life, whether it be this or anything else, where one size fits all very well.
It doesn't. You're right. It's not, every job is different. It's all different.
Yeah.
And my son did that attic, and he HEPA vacuumed it, and he just used OxyPrep and Sorbassist.
Right.
And then he used he used Deutrion tablets as an antimicrobial, as in the sporicidal, only because I had those tablets.
Right.
Right. And so I was able to give him 4 of those so he can make a gallon and spray it. And it wasn't I don't remember how big the attic he said it was. I wasn't there. He was at my house when I gave him the Deutrion stuff. So that's how he did it. And they were happy, and it disappeared. He didn't use the extract part, but it looked as bad as that did. But he said when you took
it was way worse, because the pigmentation was black in a lot of those areas. Yes,
very black.
Yeah.
But then, we got done, and now I'm using those pictures from that job. In fact, I just used it on some of my marketing.
Okay.
Because I have before and after, because it's such a great picture. Right. I mean, I don't know if people seen. I don't know how I could show it, but it's a really cool picture.
Can you share from your side? I've never been on your side. I've always been on the.
I think I can. It says share.
Yeah, let me stop sharing mine, and let's see if you can share from your side.
Let me see if I can show it. Share screen.
Yeah.
Okay. And then which one's my number one screen? I guess this is share. I'm click. Okay, so now
now we can add that to the stream. Okay, now you want to go ahead and click on what you want us to see. There you go.
Okay, so see that picture behind there?
Yeah.
So this was that job my son did, and so I put it up here because we're talking about. So it was really black, right? But he did HEPA vacuum it, so he got all the loose stuff off, and this is the end result. I mean, it looks brand new.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect picture, right? And then this is just a landing page that I make, and this happens to be for crawl spaces, right? So I have a guy going down. In fact, I remember this job, and this is about 12 years ago. I remember this picture. So this is what I did right here.
Are you designing this site for somebody else?
Yeah. So you already know Scott Alberson, right?
Yeah, sure.
He owns Medallion Healthy Homes.
Yeah.
So I have I have like 6 landing pages, because he wants to do attics and crawl spaces. So this is the inspection. This is a mold removal, right? Because there's removal.
Yeah.
And then there's testing, right? So this is mold testing. So I have a page for each thing, but I'm using the same picture because I really like this picture.
Right.
It shows people that, oh my God, I want mine to look like this. And then of course I just talk about, this is crawl space, and I have 3 more that are for the attic, right? And the only difference is it says attic here, attic, instead of crawl space. I just change all that, right?
Yeah, sure.
And then it has a picture, that same picture that you see up here is down here. And then of course I have his area down here. And these work really well because if somebody's searching for testing, it's just about that. In 26 years, and I got the word Chicagoland from them because I said, well, we don't just do Chicago, we do these other areas. What would I call that? Nearby? Or she goes, no, call it Chicagoland.
Yeah.
And so that's why, because they all know that, okay?
Yeah. Of
So
course.
so I just I stopped the share. I don't see, did it stop?
It did, yeah.
I don't know how to get back. Now I do. I know how to get back right there. Okay, so he did that job without React Extract. He HEPA vacuumed. He used OxyPrep and Sorbicist, and that's what it looks like.
Right.
Now he could put a protector on there. You can use your protector, something like that, right, for long-term protection. But that's actually ripping people off in Colorado because we don't have humidity, man. The only way mold's going to grow back on there, the roof's got to break, or it's got to get a hole from hell, and it's got to get wet. Or we get a lot of jobs in Colorado because years ago it was code. The code didn't say you had to go through the roof with your vents, like any of them, right? Like your bathroom vents and all that. And I can't tell you how many jobs I did where it's, I don't know, 10 feet in diameter in one area from that vent. I love those jobs because that's a 10-minute job with your product, right?
Right.
So it's proper mitigation is extremely important, and React Extract is important. You're going to have to figure out how to get through to people that are bidding against the drywall guy that decided to start doing mold. Now plumbers are starting to do mold, right? They started seeing how much money I was making, and now they're all doing water damage and mold. So you gotta, and I think you have the right solution with OxyPrep. And so now, if all of you out there haven't tried, this isn't a pitch to sell Mark stuff, but Sorbicist is such a great product. My son, the real estate guy, loved it that he did that job. And, I'm really, I can't believe I didn't open it up and smell it, but I'm going to his house tomorrow, so I'm going to smell it because apparently it smells really, really good.
Yeah. We, that formula actually came from work that was done last year, when hand sanitizers were huge last year.
Oh yeah.
It was all about how can we prevent the hand sanitizer from smelling like alcohol, right?
I know.
So that became a solution for the hand sanitizer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so when, originally with Sorbicist, it was more, the reason we called it Sorbicist was to assist the absorbance or the absorbency of our products, to speed them up, right? So that when guys are doing work in the wintertime in Chicagoland, they can work faster and things like that.
Yes.
But then the fragrance that was added to it was so good that it kind of took the spotlight, frankly.
I know. So that's it, right? Like now, like Josh is the real estate agent that only sells multi-million-dollar homes up in the Western Slopes, a place like Vail and all that. He liked it so much, he wants it for all of his houses he's selling because they're using those plugins and things that are terrible smelling. And they're using things like Febreze and this apparently, I don't have any firsthand experience yet, but listening to my son, he's excited about it because the guy didn't even care about the mold job. He cared more about the smell he can use. Right. But of course, as you've seen it, the mold is gone. Now, when you're watching the video of Josh doing that, it doesn't look that clean that quick. So that was the next day picture that he took. So that's how good it got by the next day.
Right.
So it was awesome.
So I'm going to do this, Joe. I just had an idea as we were talking here, because maybe this will be helpful to some people and we can find a way to get this out there to everybody. But I thought as we go through here, maybe we should take some notes for people, right?
Yeah.
As we're having our conversation, and then, figure out a way to make this, shareable to everybody, whether it's through our Zoho system or whatever the case may be, or just emailing it out to everybody. But nevertheless, I thought, hey, let's go ahead and take some notes on this. So I wanted to, kind of go back to what we were talking about. So as a manufacturer, we define, light, medium, and heavy mold based upon the level of soil load and how easy it is to remove. So if we go to the other side of this, because we've talked about react, extract several times, I wanted to make the point that, first of all, we see a lot of people, and I don't know if you've experienced this or experienced this maybe with your former employees, Joe, and that is that people oftentimes are tempted to skip the HEPA vacuum step and instead rely upon chemistry to do the work of removing all that heavy soil load. And as a manufacturer, I would not only caution everyone to not do that because it could lead to cross-contamination issues, but also it's a waste of chemical, right? It's a lot easier to HEPA vac that gross soil load off the surface. By gross, I mean by a lot of soil load off the surface. It's better to start there and get the soil load off than it is to try to power through it with chemistry.
Yeah, so that's why you see how good that looked when Josh HEPA vacuumed it. He only used 3 gallons in that attic. Right. And it was a $4,500 job, took him 3 hours and 18 minutes. So, yes, mold mitigators make more than heart surgeons, but you got to be able to spray. No, so he did HEPA vacuum it, because if he didn't, you're right, he would have used twice the amount of chemical, and it would have been twice as long. It's easy to HEPA vacuum. There's nothing to it, man. And when you have a brush on the end in an attic with the nails, it goes right over them. You just get the wide one, and with a brush, and just do it. And somebody like me, I don't like going in attics. So I had employees that did it, and my employees that did attics and crawl spaces were usually in their late 20s, early 30s. They were very agile. They weren't fat, right? They can get around real easy, and it was very, very simple for them to do it. Now, when I owned the Meridry and Mold Free Now, when I owned those companies, I would actually, if my guys didn't have a vacuum, they wouldn't have a job, because I was really concerned about that client. The cross-contamination, the spore level, and what you're doing. And it was so simple. Yeah. Now, I had to cut corners because we had other companies out there like, I forget the name of them, but they use that hydrogen peroxide gas, and they tell you everything's dead. Now you can clean it all yourself. And people were buying it because it was like, we can do your whole basement for $2,000. Well, so we just, so we had to, it's a fighting game in areas where there's no license. You're fighting against all these people, and you're trying to get the job, and you have to either explain to that person, or do they want just not see it, and we can't give you any guarantee, or do you want us to do it correctly? Because believe me, I'm bidding against the guys that are spraying bleach up there. And that's all they're doing. And then they're leaving and saying, look what a great job I did. And bleach doesn't do anything. It has no penetration. And it's not even made. Bleach is made for non-porous, and that's porous. They're not even using it in the right way. You can't use bleach in an attic. It's just, okay, so let me see what you wrote. For surface mold, it's easy to remove. Cleaning with Deuterion is recommended. Following. So when you say cleaning with Deuterion, explain that?
Yeah. So even when you HEPA vac a surface, right, you're still going to have soil load on that surface, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is that you HEPA vac, then you do a wipe down with Deuterion as your cleaning agent, and then you come back over it and spray that product on the surface, or apply that product to the surface, and then you allow it to dry for a minimum of 1 minute so you get the sporicidal activity of the product.
So you can't really clean an attic. It's not so easy.
Right. So that was going to be my second point here, right? I
mean, you can brush it, but that's just rubbing it.
Right.
Brushing, I've always said, well, what good is brushing? All we're doing is spreading it. You're not cleaning anything. It doesn't work that well. I can tell you this. Now, you haven't done a lot of attics and you haven't done a lot of crawl spaces yourself. And when you're in those confined spaces, you're trying to get the hell out of there as fast as you can. You're not I would probably be right saying 75% of the companies skip all those steps and just spray. Like, I know they do. Right. Because I know what it's like up there, and I know the arguments that I had every day with my people, right? So I know what that's like. And so, so when I'm talking to the potential client, I'm explaining, you know how I always sold, Mark? I would go in there and talk about the competition first. I would say, this is what you're going to hear. I just wanted to lay this out. So now for apples to apples, I'm just spraying something on there. It disappears and you don't have to look at it, but there's no guarantee. But I would talk about, these are the steps they're missing. This is proper mitigation. And I had I was certified by the ACAC and I had all the top certifications. So I would show them that and I would say, these are the guidelines. This is what we're supposed to do. Right. But in order to do that, it's not $1,000 anymore. Because have you ever been in an attic when it's 90 degrees outside and you're up there all day? Like, you can do, it's 15-minute shifts. You come down and you switch your people so they don't like pass out in there. So I used to switch my people, right? Because it was so hot.
Yeah.
Now we started doing some stuff at night, which really helped, of course. But then again, you got to pay more money at night to your employees, and there's all that, right? But most people are not going to do it correctly. So you got to explain to that client that this is what I'm up against. I'm up against anybody because we're not a licensed state and nobody even has to have all these certifications like me. They can come up here and spray anything and tell you they did it. The job's done, is perfect, and it's not. Now, if I'm talking about doing what they're doing, yes, my price is better, but I have a 5-year, I always gave warranties because I knew there was no moisture. And my warranty said under normal conditions. So if it got wet, I'm clear. So you almost don't have to do it correctly here because it's just not going to grow. You're not going to have that problem. You know what I mean? So it's different here. But if you have ethics, you definitely want to do it correctly. Because
and most of the rest of the country isn't like.
I know it's not. It's not like us. They're all going to want to move here now after listening to me and compete with my peeps here, man. They're like, look, you could be blind and 90 years old and do mold in Colorado. No. Well, you got to have a little sight because you got to see it.
I added a comment to this because we've talked about attics now several times, and this you could replace attics with maybe even basements or crawl spaces, things like that, right?
Yeah.
So I just said, however, on surfaces like in attics where nails, joists, and sheathing present cleaning issues, React Extract may be the best solution for efficiency and efficacy. It pulls all the mold from the cracks and crevices and allows you to extract while avoiding nails and missing the mold in the seams. When you have that abutment between your joists and your sheathing, and everybody always used to ask us, like, how do you get that mold that's in between, right? Well, if you're reliant on wipe down, scrubbing, anything else, the answer is you do the best you can. If your solution is chemical and is based upon a chemical reaction, then the answer is allow your chemistry to do that work for you and extract. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you do that, it's pulling.
Right.
It's pulling it from those cracks, and then you're able to just wet vac it right up. Like, don't HEPA vac that part. That's wet vacuuming because it's wet. It's a foam. It's wet. So, and you even have a machine. You even have a sprayer, Mark, that does both.
We do. We've got a sprayer,
BTM
sprayer, and that allows you to handle both of the products, the the OxyPrep and the OxyPar at the same time by one technician while someone else is on the extraction side of things. So it does add a lot to the efficiency. There's about in terms of efficiency, there's about a doubling of efficiency when you go from like a pump up piece of equipment to an electric piece of equipment. But then when you're able to put the two products in one person's hands and you've got that reaction going on and things of that nature, no more scrubbing, it really removes about 70% of the labor or so from like what you may have considered at one point a normal job.
Yeah, like 20 years ago, it was way different.
Right.
Because I got certified in Houston, Texas in 2001, 20 years ago in August. I went to Houston, and that's when it was like mold was this big scare back then, man. 20 years ago, it was like huge. And it was the ACAC. I was taking their class, right? And
yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's nothing like the IICRC or any of those. It's way tougher than that. I remember because I was one of the, in fact, my number was like 76 or something. I was like one of the first to get certified in mold down there. And then I went back and took the indoor, God, what's it called? Man, I can't even remember the certifications. I had, anyway, it was about indoor air quality, right? I took that one, and that was a book, like, it was this thick, dude. We had a week, and there was like all these questions, and everybody was in there sweating because the air conditioner wasn't working. It was in Houston, and because I don't remember when I went back the second time. It wasn't August then, but it was August 2001 when I got certified in mold remediation with the ACAC, and then I came back and started doing everything correctly. Yeah, because they had steps, but it was different. It was scrubbing. It was like instead of 3 hours in an attic, it was 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Right. So now we got all these products out there, and it makes it so simple, yet nobody's changed their pricing. Right. So even though we're working 70% less, the price is the same or more in some places, which makes it extremely lucrative. So why wouldn't you, making that kind of money? My son made $4,500, 3 hours, 18 minutes. Come on.
Well, I think that the reason could be the thing we got to keep on the horizon is the competitive nature of the market. Like,
I get that.
Jobs are way different than insurance jobs, right?
Yes.
And a lot of these jobs are in real estate transactions.
Yep.
They're going to be cash jobs, and they want a visual result and not necessarily an S520 based remediation.
That's right. It's exactly true. That's exactly it.
Right. And so, but here's the rub. I mean, for me, the rub is you got a seller and a seller's agent that wants it to just look good enough. You got a buyer who has to live with it, right?
Yes.
So, we work with a lot of different types of contractors, and liability is an ever-present reality for all of us, right?
Yes.
How do we help both parties?
So the way I did it,
just hear me out here.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's say a seller has someone come in and remove the mold staining, but they don't do an S520 remediation.
Yes.
And the buyer 6 months later has recurrence on that.
Yes.
And the buyer knows who did the remediations, and they go back to them and say, I want you to do it again. Or I'm suing you because you didn't do it. I don't think you did it right the first time, right? There's so many things I could see as possibilities. I knew a waterproofing company, and I was an expert testimonialist for them this past winter, maybe 9 months ago or whatever. And they don't even do mold remediation. And they got sued because mold grew in an area, and they should have been cognizant enough or whatever to bring it to their customers' attention. It was ridiculous.
Yes.
How do you how do you answer that question where the contractor, it would seem to me sometimes it's between a rock and a hard place, doing remediation right and giving that seller exactly what they want and nothing more.
So that is a problem, because those real estate agents, are not going to use you unless you're priced, unless their client's happy. Yeah. Right. And so it's a really hard deal, because you're working with both sides, and if you don't do it right, that's a possibility. Right. So that's why we did more than what we charged for, because of my integrity. Right. That's why we did the things we did, because even though they weren't paying for those things, because with chemicals, just like you said, it's way easier than it was 10 years ago. So I'm not losing money doing it that way. Right. So I would add that and add the, antimicrobial. Now, I wasn't using Deuterion because it wasn't here when I was in business.
Right. Sure.
Right. So I was using other antimicrobials, so I can say I use the kill word, right, and make sure I was getting, and I've done several seminars with other contractors, and when I ask about dwell time, almost nobody knows what the hell that is.
Yep.
Like they spray it so fast, and I'm like, well, if you're spraying it that fast, how are you getting that 10? Like a lot of them are 10 minutes, right? 10-minute dwell time, and how are you getting 10 minutes? That's like 30 seconds in Colorado. It's drying fast. Yeah. So it's just so now you have a 1-minute product that would have changed my life. Even my employees couldn't screw up.
So this is going to sound familiar to you, Joe, but neither of us have heard or said this name for a long time. You used to use Professional Mold Remediator. That was our registered quaternary ammonium chloride product back then.
Yep.
And it had a 10-minute dwell time to it before we knew that we shouldn't be making quats.
Yeah, so I was using stuff like that, right? And I knew about the 10-minute thing. Yeah, quats are bad, right? So now we have products that are extremely safe. Chlorine dioxide is one of the safest products out there, because my wife, it's been almost 25 years. She got mold poisoning in Taos, New Mexico. We were the first couple to win a lawsuit for mold poisoning in the state, probably in almost the whole country 25 years ago. Didn't even know what it was back then, right?
Texas lawsuits and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, we didn't win. We made $10,000, spent a couple $100,000 on doctors over the years. So I didn't win. I got a little bit of money, right? My lawyer tried to charge me for his training. He went to a class to learn a little bit more about mold. That's how long ago it was, right? So chlorine dioxide doesn't affect her. Bleach highly affects her. She can't use chemicals with synthetic odors, but she can use chlorine dioxide because it's not chlorine. It's not like Clorox or something like that. Yeah. It's a different type of chemistry altogether. Just shares kind of a name, right? So that's what I like about it. It won't hurt people, because I was really big into people with Lyme disease and all these different diseases because of what happened to my wife. And so people gravitated towards me, and I took care of all of those really sick people. And if I would have had chlorine dioxide, it would have saved me, because I only started using chlorine dioxide the last 5 months owning my company before I sold it. I didn't have a lot of experience with it, but now I see the potential for everybody, not hurting people. So there's more to this than just it's a great product and it's EPA registered. It doesn't affect immune compromised people for the most part.
Joe, I don't often do a very good job of this, but we've got a question here. I want to bring our screen up so I can just show someone this. Is that Tiles, Tyles? He asked what sprayer that is. So let me just quickly go into the website here. If you're at EnviroGuardDirect.com, all that you need to do is go over to the equipment and the accessories side of things. And when you click on equipment and accessories, you'll see this area of sprayers, foggers, and misters. Simply click on sprayers, foggers, and misters. And the third image that you're going to see over here is going to be the BTM sprayer base unit. Okay. So you can see the pumps and the siphoning tubes and all that sort of thing. And I'll just mouse over this real quick. This is where your inputs are for the products. And I wish it didn't expand so much. It makes it harder to see, but that's where it is on our website if you want to learn more about that. Sorry about
It's
that.
extremely easy to use too. Extremely easy. Tucker, don't forget to put my name on that sprayer. So, and that makes a big difference. So people look at a price like $17.65. How many of those stupid pump up sprayers have you gone to Home Depot and bought over 20 years of owning my business? I've spent way more than that because we threw them away each time, right? This is heavy duty. It works really well. And I've talked to people that like John Sweeney, he uses this thing. He loves it.
Yeah.
Like it's a great tool. Like when you invest in the right tools, then they last you years and years and years. And no one wants to be in a crawl space or an attic for hours and hours and hours. And this cuts that time in half right there.
Well, it's the difference between cleaning and scrubbing.
Yes.
If you're doing a true S520 remediation, it's the difference between cleaning and scrubbing and everything for 3 or 4 days versus 1 day.
That's right.
The difference between 2 days and a morning, right? That's the kind of difference in time that we're talking about. So, most people find that within 1 or 2 jobs, the equipment pays for itself, and then everything else is profit.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I don't mean to be treating this like a giant commercial at all. I want to keep us on the topic of helping contractors. And one of the things that we're kind of circling around, and I'll bring our notes back up here, is this area of profit. Like I really, and I know that you do too, I desire to help our customers grow strong, healthy. And the only way that you're healthy is if you're profitable. Strong, healthy, profitable businesses, right?
Yes.
And to take everything into consideration. And sometimes something like Dutreon is going to be the solution ultimately because of the labor equation and everything else. And sometimes because of the labor equation, it's going to be React Extract. But you got to have those arrows in your quiver so that you can make the right choice for you and your customer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, because on my side, you're making a different choice for the customer because they don't want to pay for the right choice.
Yeah.
And it's 75% of the time that's what it is. It's just how it is. Well, I got a bid from them and it was like $900. I'm like, really? So what are they going to do? And so I would explain all this stuff. And then sometimes I just did exactly what I needed to do. I went above and beyond if they weren't going to pay for it, only because I had to do it that way. When Waldo Canyon fire happened in 2012, and all these contractors were out there because smoke got in these houses because the windowsills, shrunk because of the heat index. Mm-hmm. And I won't name any companies. They're the big ones. They were in houses for like a day. Do you know my very first job, we were in there for a week and a half because I couldn't see the soot or anything. I knew that all these houses burnt down. There's all these chemicals in the air and you have no idea if there was a crack house or what it was. I made everybody start at the top floor, start at the ceiling and work down, and we cleaned everything. And my employees, my wife, everybody thought I was crazy. And at the end, then within a month, I had all the jobs. Everybody wanted to work with me for doing it right. It's the same thing with doing mold. If you're not getting paid, the big bucks because you're having to bid against people, it's so cheap doing it the right way that why not just do it the right way? And so you protect yourself and you sleep good at night, right?
Right. Well, one of the things, that we've learned along the way, and I'm going to say this, everybody always hears me say this. I don't know if they actually believe it when I say it, but we have fantastic customers. Okay.
Yes.
We have smart customers. We have helpful customers. We've got customers who help one another. Okay. And one of our very good friends and customers up in Indiana has a very well-defined sales process. And part of that sales process is that with the customer, based upon the assessment that they do, they bring back to the table what they call an accomplished list. Now, they do waterproofing and all these sorts of things as well. So what we're doing right now with our customers is understanding what services they offer and they want to offer. And then we're helping them create these documents to duplicate what it is they want duplicated in their business so they have processes in place. But this accomplished list is brilliant because after you've gotten to know your customer, you're able to figure out what's most important to them and have them give you the permission to add what they want to the accomplished list. So if the customer isn't worried about groundwater, but they are worried about mold and having the mold removed, then the question to the customer is, would you like us to add remove mold to your accomplished list today? Right? And they say, yes, please add that to the accomplished list, right?
I love it.
And the next question might be, do you want us to remove mold permanently, right? Or something like that. And it means two different things. One is, do you want us to remediate? The other question means, do you want us to provide moisture controls so that you don't have regrowth or something of that nature, right? So we put these together as a strategy to really help define what it is the customer wants. So if the customer, once they see what the grand total is going to be, right, the bill is going to be, then they're still in control. But the question is not how much can you reduce your price? It is, what do you want removed as a service, right?
That's right.
Maybe the priorities change once they see a $12,000 bill or whatever, right? And so, we don't talk about this a whole lot, but this is one of the services that we offer to our customers is, let's not only work with you in terms of what you're currently doing, i.e. selling you the products that you need now. Let's help you grow your business using tools like this to make it duplicatable so you can grow your business.
Yes. Yeah, all my people need this. This is perfect. Now, a lot of this stuff here, they're not in Colorado, I'm sure of it, because we don't have hardly any of those problems.
Right.
Ours is more like, okay, $2,000, thank you.
Right.
Right. So, because it's so simple, right? But I can see where for other businesses and other things that we do in this industry, where this really comes in handy. Like, especially, okay, so you have a water damage job and you got to build it back. And insurance is paying a certain amount of money. That's all they're giving you, like-kind products. Okay, do you want to upgrade it or do you want to keep it the same? This would have been great for my company doing that, because everybody thinks their cabinets are worth $200,000 and they're from Walmart, right? And so everybody thinks that, and then you have to explain that they're not. They're this, the carpet, we send it to ITEL. ITEL said your carpet's worth 97 cents a square foot, and you don't have $80 a yard carpet. Right? This is not wool carpet. So do you want to upgrade? And this would be perfect for everything, Mark. This is great.
Right. Well, and that's where something like this comes in handy. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. We're actually building this for a certain customer right now. But, generally what happens is we've got three forms. One is more the interview side of things and defining what the customer needs. The other is this building the accomplished list and the inspection form. And then the third piece of this is the proposal itself, where we, based upon what is found and based upon what the customer wants to accomplish, now we're adding the services, defining the solutions that we're going to be using, and what maybe the cost per square foot is and the investment that they're going to be making. But to your point, then the other element of this is something like a financing plan, right? We are, for example, partners with Green Sky, and then the contractor would know right away, oh, okay, well, like you just said, so much of this is going to be part of insurance, so much of this is going to be paid for out of pocket, and that out of pocket expense can then be financed. So you got to have your stuff together to do this well, right? You got to have these processes together and organized. It's not hard. It's just a couple, some back and forth over a couple of weeks, testing it in your marketplace to know it works and what you want to change about it, and working with us to change that, making sure you got your same as cash program in place. making sure you got all your marketing together and your educational materials together so that, you can put your best foot forward with that customer, make them confident. That's all it is.
Yeah. Well, we had those folders like, Serve Pro, Service Master. They all had those folders.
Sure.
And so we did the same thing because we would see those at jobs and I'd be like, okay, we're going to do our own folder. But our folder was a little different because it had our roofing company or water damage and all this. And each strip was like a discount on our folder that if they wanted to get a roof put in or they needed a kitchen remodel. So we did a little different, but you're right. You have all that stuff in your folder. You go in there and you sell the job and you're professional and I was able to do it by the hip, right? Like, but not everybody can do what I did, right? I upsold very easily, right? And I knew what I was doing. And believe me, there's no way to teach how I did it because it's like, okay, write this number down on my hand or something. My employees needed this, right? And so we did have something like that. We had a folder, but not exactly like yours, but it's great.
Yeah, well, as owners, we all have an advantage and a disadvantage, right? And anybody listening to this, if you're an owner, this is true. You have the owner's advantage that you're so comfortable and confident with your business that selling isn't the issue. It's duplicating what you do so that you're not the one selling forever.
Absolutely.
So that's really what we endeavor to do with our customers, is say, hey, the rest of your employees aren't going to sell what you sell, but you need, if you're going to be a business owner and not always just an employee of the business, if you want to, not work in your business, but work on your business.
That's right.
You have to get these systems in place at some point, or else you're going to do it forever. And that's what we want to help people overcome.
Yeah. And that's how I was able to sell my business, because I kind of got out of it.
Right.
And it's the hardest thing in the world to step back when you love this thing. It's like your child, right? Like this is mine, man. But I actually started making more money.
I'm in my office right now, right? Oh,
yeah.
I'm in my office right now.
Oh, God. I actually started losing money, Mark. I started making more money when I stepped back because my son didn't give discounts. Somebody tells me a sad story, and all of a sudden I'm like, giving them 10% off, 50% off. My son, are you there, Mark? I think we lost him. Did we lose you? Mark.
I'm here.
There you are. You're back?
Nah. Can you hear me?
You're back. I can hear you. You're back. I hear you. You're trying. Keep going. You're trying.
It's working.
There you are. Okay. All right. Is it working yet?
You're talking, Joe.
Yeah, I can see you. I can see you're trying to come in. Yep.
Yep.
You're trying.
Yep.
There we are. Try that.
You can keep talking.
All right. Hey, try this. This is great. Hey. Well, I'm hearing feedback when I talk. It's talking back at me now.
Are you really?
Yeah. Well,
hold on. Tucker,
now it's not. Okay. All right. If all of you want to buy something, buy it from me. Oh, wow. He's back. No. So I know. Yeah, buy it from me, man. Support Joe. So you were gone, dude. I had the show for a minute. God, this thing is like lagging. It's freaking me out because I can hear myself talk, and then 30 seconds later I hear it.
I'm gonna unplug. For some reason, when I did that one move, it totally interrupted everything, which I regret now. And
I think it works now.
Yeah. I don't know why it's lagging though. I can't tell you that.
Well, no, I think it's working now.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, right. I think now that whatever you just did. You're right. Getting away from your business is extremely important. So that's how you sell something for a lot of money. Or else the problem that you have is, well, I'm buying a job. So when you sell a business that you never get away from, they're buying a job. When you're not involved, they're buying a business at that point. And I knew that. It was just, I love what I do. Now, even in my ad agency now, Mark, that Craig and I have, we're stepping back and we have these employees that are doing a lot of stuff, and we're just hiring people that are smarter than us. And, like with master's degrees and all this. And now, so it's working, right? Because I got other things that I'm trying to do, like promoting your products because they're the best. It's not because you're my friend or I like you. It's because it happens to be the best right now. It's like, now my son, he was on the video that everybody got with using your Oxy Pro was a true testimony. And now I just showed you all a picture of what that looks like. Now, I was excited when I got the picture the next day and it was that clean. I was like, oh my gosh, there's no residue. Like, I'm not going to mention other products and put anybody down, but a lot of you that have worked with me have used other products that I promoted because they work good. This had no residue at all. The other ones do. It was, you saw the picture. It was perfect. I was like, God, man, this is it, dude. And so I released it and everybody got to see it. You're right. When you're talking to a contractor like me from Colorado or starting in New Mexico and Colorado, it's a way different conversation than if they're in South Carolina. Yeah. It's a whole nother world. Like my world was simple. Like it was just really, really simple. We can dry a house without drying a house just because there's no humidity, right? And mold, we knew it wasn't going to grow back. There's no humidity. But in reality, this is a small section of the world, right? The rest of the place has humidity and has to dry really, close drying and do it correctly. And, I've always been big also on containment because I even though I knew when I walked into a house that had mold everywhere, it was already contaminated because the damn mold's been growing for 6 months, right? So it wasn't like I was going to change much, but yes, when you pull wall down, it does create dust. And so I would do containment, right? We would do it for that reason, even though it didn't make sense sometimes. I think when you came to was that you when you came and we set up a containment? 12 years ago? Yeah. Yes, I remember that, right? We're using, to this day, I can still not say the name. Is manometer, or is that what it's called?
Yeah, manometer, yeah.
Damn, I did it right. I'm like, come on, let's call it something else. No, because that's too hard.
We had too small of a gauge of PVC. Remember how?
Yeah, I remember, man. Yeah, but my employees got to see what proper containment looks like, because when you're it's like you and your kids, you're telling your kid, you might have a better deal going, you're telling your kids something and it's like, yeah, right, and then their friend tells them something or somebody else tells them and it's like law, right? Like it's just the way it is. Like I'd be telling my son, dude, you got to do it this way, and then he'd hear somebody else, he said this, I said, that's what I've been telling you for 30 years, man. And so it's the same with that. When they saw you do it, it made it easier for me to say, see, this is how it's done. Right. I wasn't like making it up. And so I still remember that day in the warehouse over there.
Hey, man. We've talked a lot. I guess maybe the way that we should end this for today, but maybe look toward a future time together, is that Joe and I really want to help everybody be more profitable. Yes. In their businesses. And between us, we've got a lot of experience, not only the right products, but the right experience to help you get there. And every job is going to be a little bit better or a little bit different. And sometimes you just need people to bounce stuff off of. And that's what we're here for, is to help you so we can bounce some things around and come to a point where you are maximally profitable on the jobs that you're doing, and you're getting the results out of it you're looking for that you can use to grow your business with from a marketing perspective. So I would just say, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and it might require the three of us being in a room just like this together, talking about it looking at it from the angles that we're best at, and then coming to a common, helpful decision point so that you feel very confident about moving forward. A topic that we ought to talk about coming up, Joe, is odor.
Oh yeah, odor's a big one, and that's one I'm very good at.
I can tell by the signage behind you, you're pretty
good.
Oh
darn! Oh, let me. This is when I used the green screen last time I put it on there, right? And so it seems to still work. I do Zoom. Zoom is big now in our world. Everybody knows how to do Zoom meetings now. Right. And it's real simple to get on a Zoom meeting because I'm always in my office. Mark's usually in his office also. And it's real simple to chat if you have a question, right? Because it really is. It's so simple. It's almost scary. It's so simple when you use the right products. Yeah. It really is. And to do things right it's easier to do it right than not do it right, because then you got to remember when someone's asking you, did you do this? And, because something might be growing or whatever it is, right? Or the new buyers are worried. So if you do everything correctly the first time, then you don't have to worry about that. Even if you have to underbid because you're fighting these other people, the cost, the chemicals are so cheap. People, I was talking to one of my clients who bought some stuff from you, right? And he was, he did that. He sprayed all the what is that, center block, right? And you got him to buy the right product. And he was making, I probably shouldn't say what he's making, but anyway, he made a lot of money in a couple of hours. And he was like, man, I could have made more. And I'm like, oh my God. So, you're making heart surgeon money right now, and you're not even cutting anybody open. You're just doing this.
Right.
So basically I tell people when I bring in a new carpet cleaning person and they say, well, how hard is mold? And I said, okay, we're on the Zoom. I say, okay, hold your hand up. And they go, well, okay. I'm like, do this, do that. And they go, okay. And they say, what? I say, okay, you're a mold expert. I just taught you how to do mold, dude. Well, kind of. Then I have you ever seen the Karate Kid?
Right.
Same thing. Wax on, wax off, right? And it's really simple to do things correctly and to HEPA vacuum it. Why would you want to leave that behind?
Right.
There's no reason for it.
So
odor.
Just to get back to it for 1 second, we need to do a live stream that talks about not only chlorine dioxide, right, which we both believe in for odor mitigation, both from the standpoint of what we call vapor treatments, some people call gas treatments, and liquid treatments and things of that nature, but also good assessing, right, of odor. In other words, knowing where all your sources are and where all of your odor deposits are, from HVAC to painted drywall to carpets and other floor coverings to concrete. There's so many different things, and they all represent variables. They also all represent profit centers.
Yeah.
So we ought to do something where we talk about that and maybe start unraveling some of those variables so that people are thinking about potential add-on services that they're not thinking about right now. And maybe areas where maybe they're having failures currently on their odor mitigation jobs, and it's because perhaps they're not assessing correctly.
Yeah, and that's the biggest part.
Yeah.
So, I have clients that have closed down their carpet cleaning business because they're making so much money in odor control.
Yeah.
Over the years, right? Like one, Dave Snyder, up in Michigan, right? He's one, and he does great, and his average job is around $2,800.
Wow.
So if you're a carpet cleaner and you're going into houses doing some urine stuff and you're making an extra $100, he's making an extra $2,800. And I can teach you how to do that in the proper way, right? And and if you're making $100, that odor's coming back because you did basically nothing. Right. So odor is, and I got a lot of experience. Of course, I've trained people all over the world in odor control, and I did it in my own business. And sometimes you got to remove the carpet and pad. It's no good. You have your infrared camera, and you see, 20 spots in this room that are this big. They're really this big on the back. And so the carpet's ruined. Like you don't try to save a carpet like that. And so yeah, I'd love to talk about odors, Mark. It's one of the best add-ons out there, without a doubt. So
all right, well,
of
then
course
maybe not next Friday, because I'm going to be doing a training class down in Winston-Salem for a group, but maybe the Friday following we could do one of these on odor.
Yeah, if I'm not here, I got raptured, but I'll talk to God about a place for you guys that are left. Okay? Yeah, I'd love to do it. Let's do it. Yeah. So
I'm with you, but Tucker's to be around so he can run this.
Hey, look, man. This is, most of you didn't get a magazine like this, but
are you doing Medicare?
Well, I'll be 65 in 2022.
Woo!
I know, and I feel like I'm 30, dude. Like I'm not like 65. Aren't those guys almost dead?
Right.
So, my wife, of course, she retired when we sold our business. I'll never retire. I'm an entrepreneur. I love doing this, man. This is not work.
Right.
Now, work is when I own my restoration company, so it's gone now. But this is like, oh my God.
Right.
I love it. I love helping people make money, just like you do.
Yep.
So we're in the same business.
Yep.
We're in the business of helping people make more money and grow their business so they can get employees and get off the truck. Right. Some people will never get off the truck, right? There's just people that can't figure out how to hire. And if you need that kind of help, like I got a lot of experience in that, but it seems to be like, I think it's just the way my personality is. I get the right people, and it just works, and other people seem not to. And it's employees, especially now with us paying all this money every dang week. It's hard to get an employee unless you're going to pay a lot of money. Yeah. And it's just a tough deal, but we could talk about that.
Yep. All right, man. Well, hey, we gotta get out of here for a day. We've kept all these people here for almost an hour and 20 minutes.
Yes. Yes.
We'll get off this for a day, but our next time in 2 weeks we're going to talk about odor.
All right, buddy.
All right.
How do I end? Leave studio. Later.
Studio, man. I'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.